Welcome back, everybody, and now we are going to discuss the more recent release, X-Men Days of Future Past.
And there's a precedent that there is an X-Men movie and a Spider-Man movie released in the same summer. There's gotta be something
surprising because, like I noted in one of my other videos, that Marvel's got basically 4 movies coming out this year, and DC's got 0. But even more aggravating, those Marvel movies are coming out April, May, and August. So you got June and July completely free of any superhero presence. So, Warner Brothers could totally have done like a Wonder Woman or Flash or New Gods or anything that they wanted to there. But no, we're still going to wait, 2 more years for that ball to get rolling again.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so Days of Future Past was awesome. You've probably heard.
Excellent.
It is maybe the best X-Men movie we have had to date. And
which is so nice. And frustrating that we couldn't have just had Bryan Singer's X-Men 3, which we know would have been better than the one that we got. This is sort of you get a feel for what that might have been here, but you get a lot of other stuff too.
It's interesting to kind of take this movie and First Class, and then sort of look at what the other movies would have to be for all of that to make sense.
Yeah,
because there is some of the most severe discontinuity between the films that this film tries to clean up.
Yeah, it tries to clean up some of the continuity problems that have plagued these movies. It can't clean up all of them because that would be impossible, and there's still a few things sticking out that don't make sense. Now, I feel like, in retrospect, I feel like if Fox could go back to the beginning and do it all again, they would do First Class first, I think. I understand their reluctance at the time. I'm not sure, like, as a fanboy in 2000, I'm not sure I would have rooted for them to do that first, because you want to get to the good stuff. You want to get to Wolverine joining the team right away. But, I mean, the origin of the X-Men and Xavier and Magneto first coming together, that is good stuff. As we saw in First Class.
Yeah, totally.
So I think the plan could have been to do the X-Men first coming together, and I don't know, maybe do it as a period piece. Probably. And then another problem with that is I'm not sure my 18-year-old fanboy would have permitted them to do a young Xavier, because I want Patrick Stewart to play Professor X right now.
That's
another issue. But putting that aside, do the First Class first, and then you don't have to pick a starting team that plausibly fits in continuity. You can pick whatever starting team you want because there is no continuity. You can pick Cyclops and Jean and Iceman and so forth, or whatever combination of mutants you like the best. And then you can even have the same Wolverine cameo that you had here, because you're working on the Wolverine origin movie, which is going to come out the following year. And then that movie's going to make sense because it's not being run by idiots yet.
Yeah, if only. It's fun watching the X-Men kind of, weave in and out of a history, but it also creates certain issues with having the story span as many decades as it does. Like, even just going by First Class and then the first movie, when, Xavier and Magneto are talking about that there's a war coming between mutants and it's like, that war's been brewing for about 40 years now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people cite the continuity issues in in X3 and X-Men Origins that came up in First Class. But I mean, the continuity problems raised in First Class go all the way back to the first movie.
Yeah, you could just watch those two and find plenty of things that don't match up.
Yeah, in the first movie, Xavier seems to discover Magneto's psychic blocking helmet, but he got a pretty good glimpse of it in First Class there. So
it's fun. Like I said, we could do this whole history plus mutants thing, even though the mere presence of mutants would probably completely change a lot of these events.
Yeah, but it's just part of the fun of it. Trying to fit them in, and one of the biggest part where that comes up, and they did a little viral campaign of this for Days of Future Past, is with JFK and the bent bullet, which Magneto was responsible for.
It was the idea that Matthew Vaughn was throwing around when he was going to direct. And
then he left, Bryan Singer came back, but they kept that.
It was such a fun idea that they had to throw it in there.
Yeah, and so the story is that as we go back into the past, and it's now like what 10 how long has it been since?
10 years after First Class.
Yes, 10 years after First Class. And Magneto, when we join him, is being housed in a prison underneath the Pentagon for killing JFK. They've decided he's the one who killed JFK. He was the second gunman who spun the bullet around like in the Oliver Stone movie.
Like the explanation for how they had this cell ready. I can't remember exactly, but to say here's why there's no metal down here because
yeah.
With the original Days of Future Past story, it was time traveling from the future to the present, and here they're time traveling from the near future to the past.
Yeah, and the first three movies always says in the not too distant future, and in the future part of Days of Future Past, it still is the future, but they're pretty firm about it. They're sending Wolverine 50 years into the past, which is what year?
1973.
Yeah, into 1973, which puts the future part firmly in 2023.
So yeah, about 10 years.
Yeah.
So that would mean... That's the weird thing of like, okay, so Mystique tried to kill Trask, didn't work, then they got her DNA and stuff, and used her to make the Sentinels 50 years later, even though they had Sentinels going on, but it took another 50 years to make the Super Sentinels that are killing the X-Men and everybody else.
Officially, they're not called Nimrods in the movie or any of the press release stuff, but I'm going to call them Nimrods because that's basically what they are.
Yeah. So there's sort of weird, unbalanced stuff going on.
Yeah, and then also when we learn...
It's still really fun to watch, and it makes up for it in a lot of other ways.
And then continuity issues aside, it's basically in the future war, we've got Xavier, Magneto, and several others that we know. And what they remember is the story from the first three movies here.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the version of events that they remember, and then they worked in some stuff from... First Class, it's now their backstory.
Yeah.
And I did kind of chuckle when Xavier, Patrick Stewart, is explaining, like, oh yeah, Mystique, see, I met her when we were kids, we grew up together, she's like a sister to me, and then she went off with Magneto. And I just chuckled at that because that wasn't the case at all when Patrick Stewart played this character before. They worked that into First Class.
Yeah. One of the things I really liked is this one has one of the more... despite all the crazy stuff going on, it actually has a very solid time travel mechanics going on.
Yeah.
Where they explain, here's how it works, here's how we can maintain urgency in the whole situation, because there's this thing that the TV tropes calls San Dimas time, where it's this sort of like meanwhile in the past thing, where it's like, okay, why is what's going on in the past affecting the future at the same time? It's like, well, because these times are running parallel, and it's not until Wolverine wakes up that the changes will take effect. And they, really good at them creating stakes, like what Kitty's been doing so far, and like now Kitty has the time travel mind powers because the plot needs it. But okay, what Kitty's been doing up to this point has been just like sort of a temporary stall to keep them from getting killed by the Sentinels.
Yeah,
so,
which makes for a great opening action sequence, by the way. We see the future team, which
like I was harrowing, fighting him off and getting killed, and then it's undone. It's like, okay, that's neat.
But so they have like a 1 day reset button that they can use with this.
But it's like, okay, we can't do this forever, so they're gonna go for the long shot where we're gonna go all the way back and try and fix the where this all started. And if we fail, we're all dead, and there's no reset. So that's some pretty big stakes. And also means that, it's another kind of weird thing where I'm not sure that if they lay down the rules right, that means they're in that temple for several days. Does Kitty have to stay awake that whole time? I don't know. But, yeah.
It's really, I didn't realize that. That is a little strange.
I realized that like just now.
Yeah, but I also wonder if they put Kitty in that role because in the original comic story, it is Kitty who gets her mind sent back in time.
Yeah.
And I feel like they were going to do that, but I decided, no, Kitty wasn't born yet in the time period that we're going to use.
We're going to do the thing where we have both cast in the same movie. It's going to have to be something other than Kitty, and it's going to be Wolverine. And a lot of people were worried that it was going to be another Wolverine-centric story. And it wasn't. He's like maybe the fourth most significant character.
That was nice.
With like Mystique being number one, and I'd say like Charles being number two, and then Magneto.
Yeah. So and then Wolverine is just kind of there. Wolverine's basically just the facilitator of this whole thing. but it's up to the other characters to really make things happen. And I like that. And I especially like there's one scene where Xavier, who will, young Xavier, who will cover more in a bit, is trying to use Cerebro, but it's not working out because he's been off using his psychic powers for a while. And so Wolverine basically has to give him the pep talk, and I love that because we see how much he's basically how much he's grown as a character over the course of these movies, and how much he's, how much he appreciates being with the X-Men and what meeting Xavier means to him.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
That led to my favorite scene in the movie, which was Charles talking to Professor X. That was just beautiful.
Magical.
Oh my God! Seeing James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart facing off, and just really getting to Xavier's heart and soul, and where for a little bit he gets to become the main character, and that's just so good. And I love the whole thing about the having to the strength to carry everyone's pain, and that's what makes this where his power really comes from.
Yeah,
that's like amazing stuff. Let's see what else we got. That's it. Here we go back to the 70s, and First Class went back to the 60s.
Yeah,
I felt like with the 60s it was more of a serious take on the political atmosphere at the time.
Yeah.
Whereas the 70s was a little more of a kitschy sort of feel, although there was we got the Vietnam, because some characters get them deployed there.
Yeah. We heard that they got the school going at the end of First Class, but then we learned some years have passed, and the school basically closed down because half the kids got drafted.
Yeah, that was another weird thing, because we got to have these movies and we can't have this a series where we're just hanging out with them. Where it's okay, at the end of First Class, we're gonna have the sort of a proto X-Men and then Magneto's New Brotherhood, and they're going to be tangling in the next movie maybe. No, we're going to skip over that, where both teams have basically dissolved and many of them are dead now.
Yeah, a lot of them are dead. A lot of the characters we learn, including Azazel and Angel and I guess Emma, are all dead. They were all captured and I guess experimented on, and they're all dead.
Yeah.
Which leads to one of a great scenes with Michael Fassbender when he's on the plane, and he's like, "We were supposed to protect them!"
Beginning to wonder how much of a positive contribution Magneto made after they broke him out, because they're insisting in the future that they're going to need Magneto, but I can't have feeling like he did more harm than good.
As soon as
they get to Mystique, it's like, oh fuck it, I'm just going to shoot her right now. That'll solve her problems. It's really, come on, man.
I do remember right now. Did he shoot the gun himself and then chase it down with the bullet?
Whoever it was, I think basically attack off him, the gun flies, hand was in slow-mo, and then, he was able to just pull the trigger even though he wasn't holding it, and then send the bullet down. That was badass. And then, I saw in the trailer when, he's dragging Mystique somehow, and I wasn't sure how, because
she's naked. She's doing her nude act.
Yeah, it was why she's wearing handcuffs or something? It's no, she's got the bullet in her leg, and he's dragging her by the bullet. That is sick. What a dick.
I remember I heard somebody or other complain about how in First Class, maybe this was CinemaSins, on First Class how Mystique in there, played by Jennifer Lawrence, isn't an ass kicker like she is in the other movies. By Rebecca Romaine. Well, they solved that problem there. Now she is.
Now she's the ass kicker that she becomes in the original films. But now played by Jennifer Lawrence. So sort of I get the best of both worlds there.
But Mystique is in this movie a lot.
Yeah. This is
And it's interesting because Mystique is in the original story a lot. She's kind of the one. She's the one they got.
She's the one
from assassinating.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the things that they kept, even though they changed the person that she was going to assassinate.
Yeah.
Because they'd already introduced the Sentinels by that point, and probably everything else. See here. I really want to see this movie again, but in 3D, because there's several mutant powers that look a lot better in 3D.
Right,
Boeing, for instance, I heard that when she throws her portals, it's like different 3D planes.
Right, yeah. That's
gonna look really cool.
Those fight scenes in the future with Nimrods are quite good, and we got our future team, which there's a few familiar faces. We got Colossus and Wolverine and Kitty and Iceman, and we also got a few new ones. And they get like zero development, these kids.
Yeah.
But it's basically a matter of, okay, you know, what cool characters haven't we used yet? So let's just use them. So we get Warpath, we get Blink, we get Sunspot, who doesn't really have Sunspot powers. He has powers.
I was reading
Human Torch's powers.
I was reading the New Mutants now, and it's a minor nitpick, but Sunspot doesn't have like fire powers. He has like solar powered super strength, basically. But I'm fine with that. He's never going to be a major character in the movies.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things is that the 4 new future X-Men, none of them are white.
Yeah.
We got them, the Indian guy, the Brazilian guy, the Chinese girl, and black French guy.
I mean, that's something that X-Men's always done since the Giant Size reboot, is doing that tokenism and trying to represent everybody around the world as...
Yeah, and of course we can't not talk about Quicksilver, who is another 3D scene that I really want to see.
Yeah,
and
I still don't like the costume, but
but
he is really good in the movie.
Here's a weird thing about Quicksilver, though. While all of the scenes are really fun, and everybody remembers his big, taking out all the guards sequence in slow-mo. Okay, he is Magneto's son, right? And they imply that that's the case here.
He says something about how you can bend metal. My mom knew a guy who could bend metal,
and that's it. They don't do anything with it. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch can appear in the X-Men movies, and they can appear in the Avengers movies.
Actually, they appeared at the Stinger in Winter Soldier. There,
we're gonna see them in the next Avengers. But over in Avengers, they don't get to make any mention of Magneto or mutants and stuff. But in X-Men, they get to have him be his son and do something with that, and they don't do anything with it. They get to use that.
Well, they did. At least not. I mean, maybe they'll come because in the what is apparently going to be the next X-Men movie, they are going to continue with the younger cast as a period piece.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they're gonna...
But yeah, and maybe they'll bring Quicksilver back and explore that whole thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where if we could have more installments in them and develop things more, we would have gotten to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and that whole House Lencher business.
Yeah.
And Wolverine mentions that he knows this guy from the future, but we're meeting him for the first time.
Yeah. So it's what's nice with time jumps is that you can, we met him in between. Speaking of things that happen in between, when we get the backstory of, so in 1973, Mystique, killed Bulwark Trask, and it was captured and experimented on, and they used her shape-shifting powers to create the adaptive, Nimrod Sentinels. And what they don't mention is that at some point she escaped and then did all the shit she did in the first 3 movies.
Yeah.
We're just gonna. That's just implied. I mean, that's we get flashbacks of what Wolverine and the other characters remember, and what they remember is scenes from the first 3 movies. You take Mystique out of there, it's a different set of movies.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess she escaped somewhere along there after she had, after she had grown up into Rebecca Romaine, I guess.
Yeah.
And reconciled with Magneto, apparently.
Yeah. Let's see here. You want to say something about Nixon?
Oh yeah, we have Nixon in this movie as part of setting the stage, and it's not just stock footage like in First Class. We actually have scenes with him, and they do the whole thing with Nixon's White House tapes that he's recording these meetings with. And I really liked how the actor they got to play him, because I remember in Watchmen they had Nixon in there too, as in the comics, and he did not look good in there at all.
Yeah, a lot of the old age makeup and a lot of the actors playing.
Nixon looks kind of like a cartoon character anyway.
Yeah.
But it's a little hard to get somebody to play him and get that look right. So I really like what they did here. It definitely looks better than he looked in Watchmen, and he's not played by the same guy. I checked.
Yeah.
And it certainly looks better than John Cusack when he played Nixon.
I really like at the end where they're having the big sort of final standoff, and the Sentinel looks over and he reads Magneto, mutant, and the President also mutant. It's like, wait, Nixon a mutant too? Because he makes that JFK was a mutant.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's Mystique! Ah!
Yes.
So that was sort of a fake out there.
And I want to talk about just the ending after they finish, where basically we get our typical, worst case nightmare scenario where
The darkest timeline.
the darkest timeline where the Nimrods descend on the temple, and we see all the X-Men, all the new class, and the old characters, including Storm and Xavier and everybody else. They just get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And as well, this time there's no reset button. As they make their way in, and I like how Magneto tears apart the ships and then uses the ship parts to fortify the temple. That was a nice move to buy them a little time. And then they all get slaughtered, and then Wolverine wakes up and he's back at the mansion.
It's that Back to the Future ending where
everything worked out fine.
Where now everybody's happy, everybody is alive.
And we also get cameos from original cast members that we didn't even get to see in the rest of the movie. So actually, in a way, this is really a reunion of 2 X-Men teams, but really there's 3 because you get the gang in the past with young Xavier and young Magneto and young Mystique and that whole set of characters. You have the Future War team, which is Storm and Wolverine, and also Warpath and Blink and that gang. And then you get the reunited gang at the end, which is basically the gang from the first 3 movies. Slightly further in the future. And everybody's fine. And of course, he's looking around and everybody's alive again. Kitty and Colossus are together, and Rogue and Iceman are together. And then of course he sees Jean, and I'm like, oh please, oh please, oh please. Oh please, oh please. Bryan Singer, I will give you the biggest hug if you do what I hope you're about to do. And sure enough, Cyclops is there too. Cyclops, James Marsden, lives again, and I was so happy. So he basically hit the reset button, not just on like the X-Men movies we didn't like, but on all of them. Essentially, we're now split off into a whole other timeline where, I don't know, maybe. You know how these things go. Some of the stuff in these movies probably still happened, but they happened differently.
I think that
maybe they had the Dark Phoenix thing, but they managed to resolve it without anybody getting killed.
I think in X-Men Origins, even before that whole reset, that's the one that's been like completely squashed.
The timeline. As far as all the lingering continuity problems go, a lot of people will cite issues with X-Men Origins Wolverine. And here's what you do to solve those continuity problems: take this and throw it away. It didn't happen. That's what the rest of the movies are treating it as if it didn't happen. There's one point in the movie where we see, when Wolverine's hanging out in the past, we see a young Stryker, who is, I guess, a sergeant now or something. And I love that when Wolverine sees him, that triggers his Weapon X flashbacks, which disrupts the time stream thing. I love that so much. But when he sees the flashbacks, they're the flashbacks from X-Men and X-Men 2. How the Weapon X thing looked there, not from Wolverine the X-Men, which contradicted that anyway. They're treating X-Men Origins Wolverine as if it didn't happen, or as if it didn't happen that way. So just throw that one away.
The Wolverine has origin, but it wasn't that at all. It was something completely different.
That is trash.
Not full of suck.
And there are still issues, but there's still the prologue bit in X-Men 3 with slightly younger Xavier and Magneto meeting Jean, which still doesn't make sense. And so on. And also there was in the stinger at the end of the Wolverine, which was last year. By the way, that's been with the reset button, that's been wiped out too. Just a year after it came out, that now basically didn't happen. Or happened differently. But we see Magneto's there and he's got his powers back, and Xavier's there and he's alive again.
So that's the biggest hand wave of the whole series.
So how did they explain Xavier was alive again? They didn't at all. They didn't. Not even a single line to explain how he got his old body back.
Wolverine's totally surprised that Xavier is there after he got disintegrated.
But they never explain how he came back
and looks the same and is still in a wheelchair.
Still in a wheelchair. And
whatever. And a little interesting tidbit was that in the original Days of Future Past story, when we go to the future, we have Magneto in a wheelchair, which was a nice way to
forgot about that.
And so Xavier's dead here. In on Wolverine and the X-Men on the cartoon, we flash to the future where Xavier's alive, and he's got these cool like leg braces so he can run around. Okay, and I realized like you wouldn't be able to do both of those if you were telling the story with both guys. Because that would have
because that would just be silly.
Yeah, you either have Magneto in the wheelchair or Xavier's leg braces. Otherwise, you'd have Magneto going, "Hey, where are my bitchin' leg braces?"
You can't
help a guy out.
You can't do both ironic, reversals.
But in the movie, they do neither. They just have Magneto and Xavier both alive, and Xavier in his like hover chair, and that's it.
Yeah.
So okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So then there's the stinger, and now every Marvel movie has to have a stinger, even the non-Marvel Studios ones, where they tease the next X-Men movie, which has already been announced, and of course they're teasing Apocalypse.
Yeah, so that was so I'm sure the people who had never read the comics had no idea what was going on. I was like, okay, guy, the pyramids.
Maybe if they watched the cartoon.
Yeah, but like and Saban they're rich chanting. He's building the pyramids.
He's building pyramids with his mind.
Yeah, because Apocalypse has all the powers apparently. But he looks kind of like a skinny engineer from Prometheus. He's got like the white skin and the blue lips, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not going to look like that when we meet him in the next movie. This is Apocalypse. This is Apocalypse as a kid.
Yeah, this is not his final form.
Yeah. He's gonna have the metal rim.
Yeah, but it wasn't until I'm surprised I never thought of the engineers being sort of what Apocalypse might sort of look like.
Yeah.
Until now, it's like that could work.
Yeah, I didn't like much about Prometheus, but yeah, kind of take that design and use that as a starting point. Just put some more, and I guess put some more armor on there, and then of course the metal rim over his mouth. Yeah.
I really understood that. It looks like he's got like a retainer or something. But I look forward to seeing how they're gonna.
I think it's supposed to make him look. It's supposed to make him look less human.
Yeah, but I don't know. No. We'll see. So I can't imagine.
It was a good tease, I gotta say.
I can't imagine where the series could possibly go after Apocalypse.
Yeah. But I gotta say, like when you have 7 movies in the can, like if they were planning the whole thing out, I wouldn't have introduced Apocalypse any later than film 5. But now that they've had 7, including the Wolverine solos, then there's been the appropriate amount of build up. Let's do Apocalypse.
Yeah, but it's amazing that they've held on this long for 14 years with basically the same cast and
even with continuity problems,
serious continuity problems that they've had to deal with, but they have not gone full reboot yet, where many other franchises have in that time. Yeah. So, but once we're done with Apocalypse, it's like, what more can they do after that?
I don't know.
It's and I had no idea what like a reboot of this series would look like at this point, considering how much ground they've covered in these movies.
Yeah.
And I'm beginning to wonder. Like I discussed in my previous videos about Batman going to TV, or what the Fantastic Four could do in a more serialized format, if maybe the X-Men are going to have to wind up on TV in some way in the near future. Because, for one thing, all 3 of the cartoons have been much better adaptations than any of the movies could ever hope to be.
Yeah, I mean, Evolution was a much better adaptation eventually.
Yeah.
Instead they could work through all the 90210X stuff that they were required to do.
And then Wolverine the X-Men was kind of like the middle season of a bigger show.
Yeah.
But it had really, really great sort of continuity and
they packed
storytelling and attention to detail all the same.
Yeah.
But, all of them have been much more consistent and much more character-focused and much better developed than any of the movies. So it's like, I think special effects on TV are hopefully getting to a point where they can make an X-Men show. Maybe.
I don't know.
But, there are so many things that they could do on a series that are just, the movies cannot handle at all. Like we said, with Quicksilver and that whole relationship. Or just like from a comic book all 19 mentioned that, like, none of the movies really get to see just the X-Men hanging out at the mansion, and then something bad happens and they go respond to it as a team.
Yeah.
It's like really simple things like that. I remember, like, it wasn't until...
You could open a movie with that.
Yeah, totally. I remember, like, X-Men First Class, that was the first time after 5 movies that we finally got a proper team versus team battle.
Yeah, usually it's like Wolverine pairs up with some chick, and then the other X-Men get their asses kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually got that's because they had to take out Azazel, who is impossible to hit, and so like everybody kind of has to work together, and that was really good. Kind of like everybody attacking everybody else.
Yeah, they move around a lot.
Yeah, and the upper hand keeps changing around, and everybody's using their powers in inventive ways. That's what it took them 5 movies to get to that point, and that's what we should have gotten the first time.
We didn't get it here, but that's fine because there was a really good story going on all the same, and some great action along with it.
Yeah.
So, like, I figured that we wouldn't get that every episode on a series, but we would get a greater variety of action as well. And then occasionally we would come together for everybody throwing their weight against the single threat of the season.
Yeah. If the budget could handle it.
Yeah.
If they can put together a special effects budget.
So that's kind of the reason. That's kind of the reason that we didn't see the Danger Room until the 3rd film, also because of budget.
Yeah.
But they kept on putting off the Danger Room until it was time to, like, do the old checking off the boxes. Like, hey, we haven't a Danger Room, but let's do a throwaway scene. In there.
I read somewhere that the Danger Room scene when Bryan Singer was going to do it was going to be Cyclops has assembled the Danger Room to train the X-Men. Because if they were, he believes if they were better trained, they could have saved Jean. So it's kind of throwing himself into his work, and the rest of the team is paying for it.
Right.
So that would have been great, but instead they just throw Cyclops out of the movie.
Yeah. Oh well, and like in the comics, some of the Danger Room is all the time. Like Stan clearly loved that idea. That he always liked the idea of the X-Men. Training and learning creative ways to use their powers and work as a team, and come up with various solutions to these problems, and getting really good at it. And you'd always reference their training whenever they would go into action. So we got Spider-Man 2 playing in the background as the extended cuts. So we never saw the scene where Jameson puts the Spider-Man suit on. So we get a little distracted by that. So, anything else to say about X-Men Days of Future Past?
I think we covered it pretty good.
So if you haven't seen it...
X-Men Days of Future Past was really good.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, do see it, and see it in 3D if you can. And it is definitely the best X-Men movie to date. And I look forward to more, whatever form that may take.
Yeah.
So see you next time.